All right, so back at it today. Doing a chucker partridge, red leg. You know, they've got a bunch of different names. I'm using the natural head. I do that on all of my upland birds. It's just makes it easier for me. There's a little bit of rebuild that you have to do, of course, after you take the skull out of the face and detach it. You got to get all the meat out, get your brain out, and then I'm just going to go through the process on how I rebuild it. A few key things is when you pull your eye out, you want to save it. The reason why is because you're going to mold a new eye into this eye socket, and you need the exact amount of clay, epoxy, whatever you use to put back in here so that your bird doesn't look like it has bug eyes or they're too far sunk in. So there's just some of the things I've learned. A few other tricks I'm going to show you here on these upland birds. They have these little deals right here on top of their nasal passage that will shrink when they dry. You can inject those with Master's Blend, which that's what I do. It takes very little. All that's going to do is just puff that up a little bit, and when that catalyst hardens, the fine skin that's on its beak here will just kind of adhere to that, not shrink for you. So here we go. First off, I like to take borax, rub this in really good. I'll show you another way to bug proof this also. It's where you're going to have most of your problems when you do use the natural head and bill, beak. You try to get as much meat off of that thing as you can, but I've even tried boiling them out, and it just it ruins them. So I've got a cool way to bug proof it. So first off, after I get the borax on there, I rebuild the inside top part of the beak, or top of the bottom of the skull. I just close this off. I just take my clay, work it in there. You want to remember you got to leave a little bit of room for your skin to go back on there. And I leave just a little bit of material on its beak right here to glue that skin back onto. Just treat it like you would your artificial head. I'm going to try to avoid putting clay inside the skull cavity. So I'm going to fill that up with hot glue. Basically all you're doing is just putting little amounts of clay where you had that muscle, where you took that muscle away. And there's very little muscle in this area here. A lot of it's just a membrane where that skin attaches to. Try to leave that as well. And as you put clay and stuff on here, you're gonna push meat up and out towards you. It kind of helps you. Just take your scissors and just cut that away. Okay. I'm going to put some right here where the jaw connects, this tendon. Same on this side. It's also where the ear is. I don't get too crazy with it. I want to keep that natural shape as best I can. Now, this is where I was telling you the eye is important. You just take some clay, make it up in a ball, and you do your best to match it. I do a little bit more than what I should on this one, so I'm just going to go like this, finish that off, roll it, and just compare it. Okay. Then I take it, push this into the skull, and with that excess, I'm just going to work it around down into here where that membrane is. And then I push my excess up towards the top of the skull. Because if you remember, when you're skinning those out, they have this membrane right here that goes over the top of the eye. And I'll actually just cut that right off. Do your best to leave that point on the skull. That's what's going to give your bird that good looking eye look once you put the head back in. So we'll go to the next eye. A little bit more clay. And compare it again. Same thing on this side. Start here. Work it into this corner where that membrane is. Work it over here towards the jaw, where it connects to your skull and where the ear is. And then just push that excess up and over onto the skull. And then take that off with your finger. Okay? You're gonna have a slight indentation there. All right. Now I'm going to put my eyes in. Oops, got the wrong kind. We need a hazel. Even a really light brown will work as well. Definitely don't want these to go anywhere. And this is just an aspheric bird eye, hazel. So I'm going to just take this, set it in there. Same on this side. Usually what I like to do is where this point is here, I like to try to center my pupil with that point from here to here. Same on this side, from here to here. Now, as you're going through the process of putting this back on the bird, you're going to kind of mess the eyes up a little bit, and that's okay. And then I take just a small piece of clay, kind of give it a lid. That'll kind of help hold that in there as well. All this, you're going to mash it down anyway. Might be a little too much. There we go. And really all this is doing is just kind of giving you a spot to tuck that skin in. We'll just push this down. Then when I get the bird on, when I get the head on the bird, I just take my little tool, one of these guys, and just mold that with the eyelid. So you don't have to get too fancy with the detail work right here yet. Just thin this out really good. Okay, so you have something kind of like this. Super easy. All right. We're going to go ahead and inject master blend into this thing now. First, we want to take this syringe and just kind of poke this and just puff this up with some air. Not too much. Okay. I mix it in the syringe. And it's not going to take that much. Find that hole. Even if you think you see all that stuff that came out, it sticks in there just fine. Okay, got it puffed out. Wipe all that excess off. Kind of got it on my eye right here, which isn't good. Sometimes it's messy. Set that aside. Now, come to the chucker. I do this on all my upland birds, even turkeys. I just detach the leg and skin right from the body, as you can see. Okay. Yeah. So now what we'll do is we'll just take some of this master blend here, put this in the toe, like so. And I put just a little bit in the toe. See that? One. Just enough to fill those toes up. Nothing too serious. Work that in. There you go. I won't do this toe because when it was harvested, it got blown off. Okay. Next. I'll take some lacquer thinner. Put it in this old paint bottle. I want to clean my syringe out. Lacquer thinner does wonders to get that master's blend out, especially if you want to reuse your needles. By me doing that, I can get at least, I don't know, 2-3 dozen birds with just one syringe. Okay. And I take a small piece of paper towel. You want to wipe that lacquer, the master's blend off of the toes. Okay. So. Seal this back up. And well, that's set up. When I'm doing birds, I always make sure that my workstation is nice and clean. It's really frustrating when you spend all the time that you spend on washing, cleaning, and drying a bird, only to get it dried, all that stuff. You go to put it on your counter and you haven't cleaned it, and that plumage will pick up all of that residual grease, anything that's on here. It'll mat things down. It's kind of frustrating. But to combat that, I take my Lightning McQueen towel, lay it on here, just like so. Because I know this is clean. Okay, that's gonna be my spot where I work on my bird. You get it out of the denatured alcohol, wring it out, and then we'll get to mounting it. beautiful thing about upland birds. When you do that, and you put your skin back on there, that plumage is going to cover these parts of the legs. That feather pocket will. So what I do is I just take that cotton batting and use this. After I skin the bird out, I just pull this skin down all the way to here, install my wire, secure the wire to the bone, and then I just take this cotton batting and I match the other leg as far as its muscle structure. Just wrap that up and then wet this cotton down and then pull that skin back up and over. You'll be able to tell if you've got too much muscle structure rebuilt in there because the skin won't taxi up and over. So you want to make it a little bit smaller than what it initially is. That way it'll just help you alleviate any taxi problems when you're taxiing that skin up and over that. And then I just take some small pins. Once I get it up to where it needs to go, I just grab the edge of that skin, push through that cotton right into the body. It'll help hold that skin up there and get your feathers laying right. Everything. On this side as well. Just need to push that in a little bit more. Okay. Pretty cool. Cool little trick I learned. And it works for turkeys, works for pheasants, any upland bird. We'll just say that. All right. So here's my chucker. Okay. I like to use the denatured alcohol, soak it in there for 5-10 minutes. What that does is it's just going to displace that water for you and make it easier for you to dry and a lot quicker. So you're not sitting there in one spot drying out, with just the water and drying out your skin before your plumage is dry. That's what that helps with. So, and this chucker was a pen-raised chucker, but it's actually a really good specimen for a pen-raised bird. A lot of them have a lot of pin feathers in them. This one's got a couple in its tail. Like this is a pin feather. And then you have an actual feather that's grown out that I just pulled out, but we can just pop that back in, no problem. So that's what you're looking for, like a pin feather. It's not all the way grown out. I should do one of these with bloopers. You can find that hole really easy. Just push it right back in. Actually, this one was kind of shot, but it's all good. There you are. As you push that in, just be careful with it, because once that skin dries, it'll shrink around that and it'll be good. Okay. Important note on upland birds is this one was really fat, and what you do when you flesh it is you just flesh the feather tracks. Okay. You're just trying to get a good looking flesh on there. You're gonna leave a little bit of fat on there just to kind of help hold things together, because if you flesh it down normally like you would a duck to where you'd see that membrane that connects all the feather quills, you're gonna have problems with your feathers lining back up on these upland birds. There's that little tissue, that connecting tissue that's inside these feather tracks is very, very delicate, and if you hit it with your flesher, it's going to take that away, and your feathers aren't going to taxi back to where they normally should as easily. You can do it, but it's difficult. Okay, we're going to start wiring the wing. Just pull this out. take a paper towel. This will help you get any last of that meat off of there, and you're just going to dry this denatured alcohol out of this feather here, or out of the skin, I should say, not feather. Okay. Then I'm going to take my borax. I'm going to rub this on. Get this down into here. Okay. And do the same on the other side. You can see how that stuff just kind of clumps up. Take this nice soft wire. That's an aluminum wire. 18 gauge. Get it at Ace Hardware. I always go a little bit more than what I should. There's one wing. There's the other wing. You have to be kind of careful with this aluminum wire just because of it's 18 gauge. When you go to tighten it to your bird body, you can actually tighten it down too much and bust the wire. And you've kind of just eliminated the whole purpose of wiring your wing to your body. So you just kind of want to straighten this out best you can. Same thing on any bird. Pull this all the way out here. Try to get these tendons as best you can. Like I say, this aluminum wire is kind of tricky to deal with. Okay, push that back through. And then what I try to do is I try to run this wire right along the bottom up into the wrist of the bird. There's kind of a little groove in there, and once you do enough, you'll figure it out. And just push that in, seat it in. Kind of see my end of my wire right here. That's where you want it to stop. And gently pull this back down because you don't want to pull that wire. Okay. Next, I'm going to take this wire up, bend it up to here, run it across the top. I'm going to wrap it around my humerus a couple times. Okay. Take my Dremel. Figure out where I need to put this thing. Bend that out of my way. That gives you fits sometimes. Take that through, put it all the way through that hole that you just created in that thing. Okay. This is where you have to be kind of careful with that wire. Okay, there we go. Now I'm just going to take this and cut some excess off here. You can see how this wire bends really easily, kind of creases. Just straighten that out before you put the wire into your body. Then I just bend it like so. And now I can start with the wrapping process. See how I kind of pulled that wire out. Find my string I was using like 10 seconds ago. Take this. All you're going to do is just try to get this back in here, okay? Just do a couple good wraps right here. secure that wire in there. Then I take some of this cotton, not very much. Push this through that void. Work it a little bit up into here. Okay, remember, no cotton here and a little bit right in here, just very little, because you do have top, there's a little muscle that comes across here. And as you wrap that, just push with your fingers behind that string to get it flat like that muscle is. And remember, it's not round. Okay. I'm going to work this up here. And I want to secure that wire down into where we put that hole in, right? So we don't want that to come up. Wrap that a bunch of times. Wrap this back down. And I'm going to put some cotton right here to rebuild that muscle. Not much. If you get hold your hand like this, kind of want that. Run it right along the top here. Remember to leave a little bit of a void right here. If you get excess cotton like I did, just bend it over. Okay, you want to try to recreate that muscle that connects into the body of the bird. Wrap it. Okay. Doesn't take much. It's kind of what you want. You might pack this down just a little bit tighter. Then I'm going to put just a little bit more borax in here as soon as I reinvert the wing. So kind of like so. Work that down into that hole. And then you're just going to stretch it back over and around. Kind of rebend that wing. And you want to just make an M out of it. Or a W. I'm just going to do this with the wire so we don't poke through that skin. Line everything up. Get your secondaries back in place. The elbow of that bird. And there we go. On to the next side. Okay, same thing. This one I skinned out quite a ways. That's another thing. When you're pulling things out and inverting the wings to do this wiring job, you need to really be careful, especially on these upland birds, because their joints right here are very delicate, and if you pull too hard, you can pull that whole thing off. Your radius, ulna, humerus, it'll all come off. Speak to that from experience. Borax it. Get this other piece of wire. You notice how that thing just kind of folds right in there. It's kind of cool. You just sit there and just kind of study that anatomy of your bird. So let's see. This would be where that muscle lays across the top here in conjunction with the muscle that's on your humerus. Notice how that lays. It doesn't lay this way. naturally. You have to bend it. Naturally lays just like this. This is where it goes into the body of your bird. This is where that muscle is. Here. And then there's no muscle right here where those secondaries are. Just a little bit of tissue, and that's just from the quills that go into the bone here. Okay. That's why it's really important not to overbuild your muscle structure. Then you're just going to try to work this in. Invert that a little bit. I'm just going to turn my wire because I got it in there weird. And then just follow that bone I was telling you about, that groove. Sometimes I can get it right away, and other times it takes me a minute. There we go. Okay. Figure out what's the inside and what's not here. Holy cow. Got that on the wrong side. That's all right. So same thing. I'm going to bend this up, make a bend, run it across the top here. But before I start doing all of that stuff, I'm going to go like this. And just kind of secure this a little bit here. Okay. Holy smokes. Okay, that'll keep that from pulling out on me. Same thing. I'm just going to take the wire, wrap it around the humerus, get my Dremel. Maybe not that fast. Find my hole. Don't want to force it, just work it. Bend this out of my way. Taxidermy with string is just like fishing. It can get tangled up in anything. You don't know how it does it, but it does it. A couple more times. Take my cotton. Just very little amount right in here. Secure that wire up here. Okay, same thing as the other wing. Take a small piece of cotton. I like to just kind of form it on there. Kind of a loose wrap. And that down here. Should get all of that good and secure. Okay. Here, extra borax in there. Push that down, pull this out. Just re-inverting that wing. Make sure your secondaries line up. Bend this into an M or a W, whatever. Okay. Just want to borax this just a little bit more. Here. All that's really going to do is just help me dry that bird out, dry that skin out, well, and bug proof it. What you don't see is when I wash the bird, after I get done washing it, especially if it's like a duck or a goose, something that's really prone to bugs, I'll dissolve a little bit of salt, maybe half a cup of salt to a cup of borax, and I will pickle it a little bit. Let that borax soak into that skin, and all that does is it just gets absorbed by that skin, and it helps bug proof it. Let it soak for about 20-30 minutes. And then of course, if you're really worried about it, you can just mash this borax into a fine pulp after the bird's dry. You can just give it a light dusting and things will leave it alone. And as far as the eye rings, after I get the bird mounted, after it dries, I'll make eye rings for it and just kind of stick them on there and then paint them. Okay. One last thing, a little bit more prep here on the body of the bird itself. I'm going to rebuild that crop area. The upland birds have that nice big crop. And what you're trying to do here is you're just trying to achieve that natural bend in body here. Just make that natural shape, natural round shape, okay? You don't want to like puff it way out. I'll take my string, wrap it snug, not super tight. You want to be able to kind of move and adjust this. Some guys use just straight out silicone right in this area, and they're good at it. Me, I've never had luck with using silicone as a filler. I always tend to overfill things. Okay, and then I'll take a little bit, not much, put it here on the back of the neck and just kind of fill that void from the back to the sides of the neck. Same thing, I'm going to wrap it, but I'm just going to kind of wrap it snug but not overly tight, just to secure that. Kind of gentle. But but when I get to the edge of that cotton, where that neck is, I'll put a little bit of pressure on it. Press around a couple times, pull it tight. All that's going to do is just make sure that string doesn't go anywhere. Leave your string long. Always, always, always. Okay. The only other thing I got to do is take my pick. And this one, there's a little bit of ball foam there. Just creating that hole for that soft wire to go through. But by doing it this way, when I first started doing it this way and using this system, I would have to take the wing bone, the walnut, set it on here like so, and then drill it and then just punch a little hole there, and that way I could get the wire to line up right when I would go to wire the wings. But I've done it a lot, so many times now that just kind of by memory, just kind of know where it's supposed to go. Okay, take the bird. You're gonna notice I'm not gonna sew this bird at all. That's why it's permanently stationed on its little post here. Okay. Cut that wire short, and you're just gonna pull this up. Set this in. Like I say, this is really soft wire. You can manipulate it really easily, almost too easily. It sometimes it just kind of hinders you because it's so soft. But and then I'm just gonna put that ball joint right in where that goes on that form. Okay. I'm not gonna cinch this down yet. I'm gonna do the same on this side. Kind of makes me feel like I'm a beginner taxidermist again, trying to do this for a video for you guys, because I want you guys to be able to see it, and I'm not used to doing that. Like this. That's the reason why I don't tighten that other side, is because you're really stretching the skin. Here's the ball. That's where you're going to put the ball. Okay, there's your wire. Pull this up a little bit. Now, when you go to tighten this, don't yard on it too hard, because that's where you're going to break it. With this soft wire and these hard bodies, make you a little pilot hole for that wire with a pick. I don't know what happened to my pliers, the ones that don't cut. I kind of did that a little too far down. But luckily, I can just do that. Okay, I think I need to cut this just a little bit shorter. I'm gonna make sure that's snug. Make a little bit of a hole there for that pick. Ooh. to go. Okay, it's all secure. Now, kind of open up the wings a little bit just to make sure I can get everything lined right. And then you're just going to bring this down just like you normally would. I'm a little worried that this body was going to be too big for this bird, but it's actually just the right size. Okay, see how that side pocket sits? See how we have this? Okay, we're just going to take this skin. I'm going to match it up right here. Probably going to be easier if I do it this way. You just want to match your cuts up. Okay. And I'm going to take this size of a pin. I'm just going to pin that skin. Find where everything needs to go. And I'm sure I'm going to have to adjust it, but that's why I don't poke them in all the way yet. Okay, let me get this right here and I'll show you. So here's the skin of the body of the bird, right? Here's my leg skin, right? Okay. I'm just taking this edge that I cut, took that down, and up and in there, and then I just pull that tight. You can see where you need to pin it. Okay. Same thing here. Okay, and then when you go to dry that off and everything, yeah, it's gonna look really, really good. Extra skin here. Kind of just taxi it around. And of course, I'm gonna go in with silicone and put some right here inside the feather pocket so I can really move that skin up in. That's why I didn't dry the bird yet, because I like to just be able to see everything in here and what I gotta do when you dry them fully. Sometimes it, for me anyway, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to do it this way. I have done it this way before. That way before, I should say. Okay. I would recommend that you do a couple dozen of these before you do this, just to be able to see where everything's got to go and how to cut it. The smallest hole you can make, the better. But how I learned doing this was, I learned doing it on turkeys. Do it on something larger. And once you do it on something larger, like a turkey, you'll figure it out really quick on where to cut, where to pin. Then I come around here. really study your bird as well that you're doing, because once you pin it, you're gonna have taxi issues. You won't be able to taxi that skin around. Just study it, figure out the lines of your feathers. You know, as far as where colors meet, where they end, where they start. And that way that'll help you. Okay, and then I just bring this down. And then I have the back of the bird that I need to pin right in here. Okay? But I need to get me a tail wire. This little guy right here might work good. When I prep the mannequin, I always poke the holes for the legs, the neck, and then I do the wings as I wire them into the body. Okay? Poke a hole right here for the tail. And then what I do is I come up here, because upland, they do have that oil gland, but they're not as big as waterfowl. But you still want to get that pegastyle bone out of its tail. Pegastyle, Pegas, I don't know. And run that. The wire's a little long, but that's okay. And just shove that right in that hole. Okay, and again, we're going to leave this long. Just kind of adjust things. And this boy, he's drying out pretty good too, just without me even using the dryer on it. Lift its wings up. Just be careful not to break that wire. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here, take this skin. This is the back of the bird. Okay. You want to find where it wraps to the body on the inside between the legs. Point to point, best you can. Stretch that up, push that down. Okay, and then you're gonna get this, the belly of the bird, and stretch it down and pin it. Okay, now we have this opening here that we've got to close off to the back of the leg. Same concept as in the front, the belly of the bird. You're just going to take that skin, grab it with your needle, tuck it close to that thigh. And I leave the pins in after the bird's dried. Don't even notice them. You'd have a hard time taking them out anyway because you couldn't be able to see them. And that's why I use a small, inexpensive needle pin, whatever you want to call them. Okay, and all we're doing is just getting that skin, closing that up. Like I say, I do this on all my uplands, my turkeys. It just makes it so much easier. I'm gonna try my best here, guys. I know my hands are in the way, but this one I kind of got things tucked weird, but it's all right. Okay, so this is our void. You see the mannequin right here. You can see the mannequin. Okay, we're just going to take this skin, grab with that needle, push that needle down as close to that thigh as I can get it, right into that foam. Probably shouldn't put stuff like that in my mouth. But I'm a Gen Xer, so I have a huge immune system. Okay, and I have just a little bit of skin right here, a little bit of an opening. So I'm just gonna grab that, push that in. Okay, and there you have it. So you're gonna notice that you don't really even see that. Okay, of course it's gonna look really good once I get him all dried and fluffed out. He's gonna be kind of an alert chucker. Then I'll have a seam down here. I'll go over how I build that in another video once the bird dries. I like to do my birds and then build the scene around it. That way I tend to not ruin the scene if I build it first and then do the bird. Okay, forgot. Oh, dang, unplug my iPhone here. Hopefully it doesn't die on me. Plug that in and get that going. I'll show you what we do next after that heats up a little bit. So just kind of talking about the bird here. Chuckers are a really unique bird. Really like the chucker. Kind of a geek on birds anyway. The reason why I do it the way I do it, cut the legs off, attach them to the body, is so I can get the anatomy right on the bird. Like this is a pheasant body, okay? With this system that the sculptor has created, a lot of you guys have done birds, you probably know who does these. It's awesome. He was gracious enough to mold these upland birds' bodies for a standing position or a flying position, okay? He has these little dots right here. And that person actually has a cool tutorial about using his system. I recommend you watch it. It's really good. It's Shane Smith. So he does phenomenal stuff. But he just kind of goes into detail on how to use these. But they're really good bodies. So anyway, it helps you get the anatomy right. As far as like a standing bird, for like this bird, wire here, measure a straw. Put that wire on in there, put that straw in there, and where that straw meets the top of your femur, you just bend it. And that'll give you a good representation of where that leg's supposed to sit. Thigh hip attachment. When you put your birds on here, get it on your base or whatever you're doing, that allows you to lift that bird up. And as you lift that up, the legs go like this and down, just like a natural bird would, right? That's kind of what this chucker's doing. He's kind of alert. He wants him standing up, nice and tall. If I wanted him squatted, all I'd have to do is just push him down. The wire that you'd want to use for this guy, where it's a double leg stand position is what I call it, I just use a 14 gauge wire in each leg. And then I push a little bit excess through the back of the pad of the bird and then just push it on there. And then when I want to adjust it, I just hold it here and lift up. I don't run wire all the way through. I don't run wire out. To me, that works. So, anyway, that's a little bit of a off the subject type discussion, but okay. The cool thing about using its natural head is if you like that slight open mouth, like a lot of my customers do, all you have to do is just slightly open it and it'll hold. The reason how it holds is because I got that clay sitting right here in that hinge point of its jaw. Okay, and we'll do this one, just a slight open mouth. I have to figure out how to clean that off. But what I'm gonna do next, yeah, they told you to leave this void of any clay or anything, because we're gonna put a bunch of hot glue in there. So I'm gonna take that and just glue this right onto here like so. You're gonna have to build this up just a little bit just to kind of create that smooth transition. Okay, but like I said, study your carcass. If you notice on your carcasses, on a live carcass, that spine is going to connect right here, and then that neck's going to go just like this. Okay, it doesn't come out to the side and then down. It goes right here, just like so. You can see that. Okay. Some people like to do a trachea with a smaller piece of this foam. I don't. I'll just fill that void in here with just a little bit of cotton or even some silicone. I'll probably use silicone on this guy. So let's see if our glue's ready to go. Get back to work instead of sitting here yakking. So you're just gonna fill this up. And I just use a clear glue stick. And you're gonna feel the heat from that. And then I'm just gonna set this on here. Okay. I'm gonna set it kind of like this, because we want him kind of looking. You know something's not quite right. If you study chuckers and things like that, chuckers are a very wary bird. Make sure that head's centered as best you can, but once that glue dries, you can move that wire again. I just use a soft annealed tie wire that you can get at Ace, Home Depot, anywhere. And it makes it so much easier to bend, especially on these smaller birds. Like geese, swans, things like that. Of course, you're gonna use a heavier gauge wire for its neck because those heads, especially if you're using an artificial head, they're really heavy. But for these little guys, these little dudes, this tie wire works great. And I've used this stuff for that wood duck I did a couple weeks ago. Use it for mallards, pintails, widgeons, pretty much all the smaller size puddle ducks and some of the smaller diver ducks. When I get into heavier gauge wire, you know, and again, it's maybe a 14 gauge. I'll use that for my bigger ducks, and then I'll even go up to a 10 gauge annealed for geese and swans and things like that. I don't use galvanized. I used to use galvanized all the time, and I didn't like the galvanized wire. The only part I use galvanized for is for the tail, and that's just because I have extra. So let me get this glue gun unplugged. Set that aside. All right. just going to take a small bit of cotton. Really all I'm doing is just kind of filling this void in where I remove that bone. Okay, that's going to work. Take my string. It's a lot easier for me when these things are not on the base, but I'm just going to bend this down. Okay. Try not to get that skin. Oh, okay, I'm good. Okay, I'm just going to do a light wrap, but I want it secured. You don't want to do super heavy wrap because you'll distort the shape of that neck. Okay, go like this. And leave your string long, always, always, always. All right, now I'm going to bend this back up. I need to let that kind of harden just a little bit more before I get too carried away here. Another reason why I like using the Upland's natural skull is the artificial skulls tend to be a little bit larger, and it's kind of harder to get the skin onto the face of the bird. Sometimes you'll have to just make a small cut right here and then get your artificial head in there and then super glue that skin back together. Let that harden up just a little bit more. Take my crazy glue. Okay, and all I'm going to do is just match everything back up. That's why you don't want to overbuild your skull when you use your natural head. Because if you overbuild it, then all your mandibles aren't going to match up. You're not going to have that smooth transition. Okay, I just kind of get things set in here. And on Upland, I start on the top. And again, it takes just very little glue. You just match things up. You have to be a little bit more delicate with the Upland, especially your chuckers and pheasants. They have that skin that goes all the way up here into their nasal, right in here, and it wraps around this little dude that we injected with Master's Blend, and you got to get that tucked in there. So on these, you just want to make sure that everything looks good, everything's matched up. We're going to bend in this way so I can lay them flat. And then also, you have to skin the bird's face out really far on these Uplands because the end of its beak here and here go way in there, unlike what your waterfowl does. There'll actually be some skin there that doesn't have any plumage on it, And so for that, you just take this, run your glue out your ways, and then run it right up here onto its beak. And then you just go point to point. You can grab it, maneuver that in, maneuver this skin down, okay? Before that glue sets up, just kind of move that around with your fingers. Try not to glue your fingers to it though. Done that before, it's not fun. Okay, then we're gonna do this side. Tuck that in really good up into that little nasal. Okay. It's gonna be a good looking little bandit when he's done. That's what I like to call them, is bandits. They look like a bandit. Like a little bank robber. But they rob your hopes and dreams when you go out and hunt them. Those of you that have hunted them know what I'm saying. Got this clay up just a little bit, so I'm just gonna push that down with my finger. Okay, that's where I want that to go. Pull that back. I'm gonna do this one just a little bit different because I like to try new things. Set this in. You're gonna kind of have to move this skin up a little bit. You're gonna have to kind of be rough with it, but don't like try to pull the feathers out type rough. Okay. Then I'm going to take this glue, put it right here, and just kind of pull this down onto the top of that beak here. Okay. While that's drying, you can really manipulate that around, but you don't have. You maybe have a half of a minute, if that. Okay. Then I'm just going to take this guy and bend him this way. And I'm going to get the lower mandible. That's where I'm going to end. Just put a couple little dabs and then just move it around with the tip of your super glue bottle. And just remember, point to point. I'm kind of got away from me. There we go. Okay. Oh, I need to get this side. That's why I like to move things around, because sometimes things come off. And that clay in there, you can really push that skin down too. And then when that clay dries, it will also help hold that skin. This is kind of a cool looking little bird. Make sure everything's kind of taxied well. Of course, we're gonna dry him. Okay, and on a chucker, even a pheasant. I'm gonna tuck a little bit of paper towel inside its eye. If I can get it open. Usually I do that before I glue the mandibles back. A little bit easier doing it that way. And then I'm gonna soak that little bit of paper towel I put in here, just to keep those eyelids wet. I had it until my tweezers grabbed it. Okay, there we go. And it's just a little bit of paper towel. And I've had it fall down in. I'll need to trim that eye really quickly. Where my skizzers are. Didn't skin that out very well when I skinned it off. Okay, just a little bit of paper towel. Take my little pick and just shove that in there. Pull the lower lid over it, grab that upper lid. Yeah. Come on, little buddy. You can do it. There we go. Take my trusty squirt bottle here. You can see the paper towel I put in there. Oop. And of course. There we go. Just give that a squirt. Just basically just wetting that paper towel down, giving it a squirt, and then just push your eye ring and your eyelids up against it. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna pause this. I have to start a new video, but don't want you guys to listen to the vacuum, so I'll be back in a little bit.